Friends, I welcome you all. Uh, Earlier, we have discussed something about GST invoices. I had shown you some GST invoices. You know how it looks like, and you also know how to identify whether it is a B2B invoice or B2C invoices. Now, friends, you see, once the supply is made, then GST liability arises. The person is registered under GST law, or he is liable to be registered under GST law. He is supposed to discharge this GST liability. That is one thing, that the tax has to be paid. And you also know how that can be paid. One way, you can use your input tax credit. Other way is that deposit cash and use the balance which will be available in the electronic cash ledger. This is how GST liability is discharged. Yes or no? Now, friends, you see, this liability arises. The liability arises whenever there is a supply. There is a supply by a registered person. There is a making a supply, this liability arises. And that person, GST registered person, is also liable to upload returns. That also we had discussed earlier. Will be separate classes. Will be having a separate class on GST return. So various returns needs to be filed. So GST registered persons are also supposed to file returns. So not that only tax payment is sufficient. In addition to paying tax, he has to file returns. Now, when these returns are to file, certain details which are mentioned in the invoices also needs to be filed in certain situations. Therefore, on the basis of that requirement, we are classifying GST invoices into certain categories. Let us say broadly, you know already, you can classify it on the basis of whether it is a B2B invoice or B2C invoices. B2C invoices, what happens in that case, customer doesn't take input tax credit. He's not interested in that. He's not a impacted business customer. He has to bear the consequence of indirect tax. But if it is a B2B invoice, then what happens? The person who is purchasing the goods or who is availing the services, availing that input services, he is interested in availing the input tax credit. Therefore, so far as these invoices are concerned, then certain more details are required to be uploaded at the time of filing of GSTR 1. When that return is to be filed, these details need to be uploaded. Okay. Therefore, all business houses are required to keep these details. They need to maintain all these details because at the time of filing of return, these things will be done. So on the basis of requirement, if you classify the invoices, so if you're classifying them like this, let me share the screen with you right now. Just a minute. This concept we have discussed earlier. So earlier we have seen this kind of invoice is called as the B2B invoices, because why it is called B2B invoices, you already know. This is the detail of the recipient who is receiving the service, and this is the detail of person who is providing that service. So this person is interested to take the input tax credit. Let us say almost rupees, you see, 27,000 has been collected in the form of 13,500 as GST and 13,500 as GST. This much of money has been collected by the provider of service, and this person is interested to take input tax credit. Therefore, this money, therefore, we need to file a return where we have to show that this much of money has been collected against this GST. Are you getting? So this is an example of a B2B invoice. Are you getting? If it is a B2C invoice, what happens? You see, there is no GST. That means the person who has availed this service is not registered under GST law. He is not interested in taking input tax credit. But that doesn't mean that the person who is providing service will not charge GST. The person who is providing service is charging GST. Okay. For example, this amount you see, 1,080 rupees GST. And again, 1,080 rupees as SGST is correct. But the consequence of this money, which is paid, consequence of this payment, that means this tax has to be borne by the person who is receiving the service. Okay, he has to bear the consequences because it's not a B2B, it's not a B2B transaction. He cannot transfer it further. Are you understanding? Okay, so on that basis, we'll be classifying the invoices. Certain invoices where we need to give data or we to provide more details, certain invoices we can manage. For that purpose, to understand the meaning of GST invoice or tax invoice, we need to refer to section 31 of the CGSTR. If you see here, section 31 talks about various aspects. First important aspect is that in case we are supplying goods, a supplier has supplied goods, then he needs to raise these invoices before or at the time of supply. I repeat, either before or at the time of movement of goods. At the time of supply, he has to do it. So if you read it, the exact wording said like this: a registered person supplying taxable goods shall, before or at the time of a removal of goods for supply to the recipient, where the supply involves movement of goods. When movement of goods is involved, then either before or at the time of removal, he has to issue invoices. Okay. Now watch it here. It says or P. Okay, P means before or at the time of delivery of goods or making available thereof to the recipient. Okay, suppose goods are delivered at the shop floor, at the shop itself, goods are delivered to the customer, or it is made available for use of the customer. In that case, at the time of delivery or at the time when goods are made available to the recipient for his use or for his consumption, either at that time or before that, shall issue a tax invoice. Okay, is it clear to you what is the time in which tax invoice needs to be issued? Either before or at the time of removal or delivery, or the time when goods are made available for use of the recipient. And the tax invoice should show description, quantity, value of goods, tax charge thereof, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. So these are the certain requirements which should be contained in an invoice. What is the goods? How much is the quantity? What's the value of that goods? How much tax is collected? All these particulars may be present. Hope you have understood this. There is a proviso to this subsection. It says, provided that central government may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify the category of goods and services in respect of which tax invoice shall be issued within such time and such manner as may be prescribed. So this provision is that the central government is empowered to notify that in certain situations it is not necessary that you have to issue it before or at the time of providing service or at the time of making supplying goods. You can do it some other time also. This power is there with the central government, but that is in case of specific situation. Okay, sometimes you might have seen that in banking industry, that's invoices are raised periodically, right? So like this, certain exception situations are there. In that case, the central government is empowered to notify that these are the supplies for which invoices can be raised otherwise than before or at the time of removal or delivery or at the time of making it available for use. Of this part is clear what is the time for issue. And this particular subsection was talking about goods. Now coming to the next part, here we'll be discussing about services. As you know, GST law is applicable for both. One is goods as well as for services. Broadly, it is referred to as supply. Supply covers both supply of goods as well as supply of services. Now, if you see subsection 2, it talks about a registered person supplying taxable services shall, before or after provision of service, either before or after provision of service, but within a prescribed period. So within a time limit, he has to raise invoice. Issue a tax invoice showing the description, value, tax charge, and such other particulars as benefits. The description of service would be there, value of service, how much is the tax charged, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. All these things should be there in the invoice. But this invoice can be raised either before or after. But after means within a prescribed period. As of now, the prescribed period is 30 days. Okay, so within that prescribed period of 30 days, this invoice has to be raised. Okay, government may prescribe this period, government may change this period also. And there is a proviso here also. It says the government may, on recommendation of the council by notification and subject to such conditions as may be mentioned therein, specify the categories of services in respect of which any other document issued in relation to the supply shall be deemed to be tax invoice. Meaning, it might be some other document, it might be a money receipt, it might be a, let us say, debit note. Those documents can also be referred to, that they can also be called as tax invoices. Or it also says that tax invoice may not be issued. That's also possible. Okay, so this provision is also there, so we have to read it. Now, understood what is the difference between goods and services? In case of goods, invoices can be raised at what time? Before or at the time of removal or delivery. But in case of services, it can be issued before or after also. But after means within a prescribed period. That's the broad difference. Now, for the purpose of filing of the return, we are going to classify invoices like this: B2B invoices and B2C invoices. B2B invoices, of course, we need the GST details of the persons. But so far as B2C invoices are concerned, we are classifying them into two categories. One is B2B small invoices, and the second one is B2B, this B2C invoices are classified into two categories. One is B2C small invoices, and other one is B2C large invoices. What is small invoices? Who can tell? It is described here. Can you read it here? Can you read this box? Some of you please read it. Are you able to read it?
So interstate supply or interstate supply up to 250.
It talks about intrastate supply. Intrastate supply or interstate supply up to 250,000. So up to, if the invoice value is 250,000 rupees, that can be called as B2C small invoices. And what is B2C large invoices? It talks about interstate supply. Okay, interstate supply above 250,000. If it is interstate supply, even if it is B2C, and even if we need a B2C supply, but still we need to give the details. If the value exceeds rupees 250,000. So therefore, interstate supply, if it is exceeding rupees 250,000 rupees, they will be called as B2C large invoices. Except this interstate supply 250,000, other B2C invoices can be reported by B2C small invoices. That means all interstate or interstate supply up to rupees 250,000 rupees can be reported as B2C small invoices. Okay, right? So this classification is necessary because if it is a small invoice, we need not give complete data. We need not upload complete data. But in case it is a B2B invoice, or it's a B2C large invoices, we need little more data at the time of filing of our GSTR 1 or GSTR 1 return. Okay, I think you have understood the logic why you are segregating it like this. Now let us understand this process. B2B means business to business transactions. The customer who are purchasing or who are availing the services, they are interested to. They're not only interested, they're interested. They're also eligible to take input tax credit. Therefore, they are interested in that invoice so that they can avail input tax credit. For B2B supplies, invoice-wise details. If it is B2B, then invoice-wise details needs to be uploaded. Again, I repeat, invoice-wise details. You need not upload the copy of invoice. Copy of invoices need not be uploaded, but invoice-wise details has to be uploaded, irrespective of the fact whether it is interested or interested. Okay, once it is B2B, what is required? Invoice-wise details. You need not scan your invoice and upload it. No, invoice-wise details need to be uploaded. What are the details? GST, that means purchasers or the recipients GST, invoice number, invoice date, taxable value, rate of tax, amount of tax, and invoice value. Invoice number, invoice date, taxable value, rate of tax, amount of tax, and invoice value. All these things should be there. Let me show you an invoice. B2B, let us say. You see, there is an invoice number, date, GSTIN, both the GSTINs are there, invoice value, rate, tax amount, and the total. Everything is there in the invoice. Okay, so these things should be there, and these things need to be uploaded. By looking at the invoice, you have to create a data, create a list of the parties, and you have to upload this thing. Right? When we are filing GSTR 1. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you as regards to B2B invoices? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us to the next concept. Now let us come to B2C invoices. B2C invoices we have classified into two categories. B2C small. First, let us see what is this B2C small invoices. B2C means business to customer. Okay, we are classifying it, or we can say we are further classifying it to B2C S or B2C L. B2C small customer, B2C large customers. B2C small transactions. The customer is an unregistered person. He has to consume the ITC. He is not going to transfer this input tax credit. He will not be able to. Is not eligible to use this input tax credit. Okay. So in those transactions, that is B2C small transaction, we need not upload invoice-wise details. But what is need to be uploaded? The consolidated details. That is total figures need to be uploaded. The B2C transactions, consolidated details of intrastate sales for each tax rate. There are various tax rates applicable. Sometimes it may be 5%, sometimes it will be 18%, sometimes some product it might be 28%. So for each tax rate, what is the intrastate sales? That details has to be specified. Right? That's a total 5% sale. This is that. Then for interstate sale, the value up to rupees 2,50,000. If it is up to rupees 2,50,000, that will be regarded as B2C small. If it is above 2,50,000, then we need to submit more details. Right? And that will not be categorized as B2C small. So for interstate sales, with the invoice value up to 2,50,000 for each tax rate. That also has to be approved. That means interested or interested sale. Interested sale all, interested sale only up to 2,50,000 rupees has to be consolidated details needs to be approved. State-wise summary of each tax rate should be reported in GST 1. The moment interested sales are involved up to rupees 2,50,000 rupees, then state-wise summary also needs to be uploaded. Okay. Now, what are these details needs to be uploaded? State, taxable value, rate of tax, and amount of tax. These things have to be uploaded. Okay, understood this? So far as B2C small invoices are concerned. Interested sale, consolidated deals. Interested sale, consolidated, again state-wise summary. It should state-wise summary for each tax rate needs to be uploaded. This is it, B2C small invoices. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Now let us move to B2C large invoices. B2C large means business customer transaction. So the transaction is first of all interstate. Interstate means where IGST is collected. And invoice value is more than 2,50,000. If invoice value is less than 2,50,000, it is coming under our previous category, that is B2C small. But if it is exceeding 2,50,000 and it is interstate, then will be that may be regarded as B2C large invoices. And in B2C large invoice transaction, the customer is an unregistered person, is not eligible to take ITC because after all it is a B2C transaction. But for B2C large transaction, invoice-wise details of interested supplies with invoice value exceeding 2,50,000 needs to be uploaded in GST 1 data. Okay, invoice-wise details needs to be uploaded. Again, invoices needs to be uploaded. So you need not scan your invoice and upload it. No, that is not necessary. But you have to upload the invoice-wise details. And what are the information that needs to be uploaded? Number one, place of supply. Then invoice number, invoice date, taxable value, rate of tax, amount of tax, and the invoice value. This thing needs to be declared in GST 1. So one has to arrange this data for all large invoices. B2C large invoices, one needs to arrange this data. So your MIS system should provide you that data. So for us B2B customers, data should be available. B2C customers, data should be available, consolidated details. And B2C large customers, data should also be available. If data is available with you, then you'll be comfortably able to file GST 1. Okay. So because of these filing requirements, we are classifying the invoices into these categories: B2B, B2C, B2C small, and B2C large. Is it clear up to this?
Yes, sir.
Now, having understood this, the rules of invoicing will be learning later on. But at this stage, we'll have some basic idea, some preliminary idea about the contents of invoice. You have seen so many invoices, and in your day-to-day life, you must be seeing many GST invoices. Okay, by looking at the invoices, I'm sure you'll be able to identify this is interstate supply or intrastate supply. Looking at whether GST, CGST is collected or IGST is collected. You are also able to understand whether it is a business supply, B2B supply, or B2C supply. Okay, and for a registered person, it is always Y is to collect a B2B invoices so that he can avail input excrement. Okay. Now let us see at the various contents. Let us list out some of the contents of the elements which should be there in invoice. Give me a second for that. Yeah, for that thing I have to refer to rule 46. Anyway, when we will be learning the invoice chapter, this thing will be discussed again. But now we'll have some basic preliminary idea. Okay. This has to be read, this rule 46 has to be read along with rule 54 and as well as rule section 31 of the GST Act, which is talking about invoice, which is trying to define invoices. Now you see, these are the components. First of all, you see name, address, then GSTN of the supplier. Okay, name, address, GSTN of the supplier. So let us look at the invoice whether it is there or not. Earlier I had shown you some invoices. Just let us check up. Is it there? You see name of the supplier at the top. Address is also there. GSTN is also there. Okay, is it there or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is about supplier. Okay, recipient address will be there. That will be learning later on. Name, address in any invoice. You must verify that whether this is there or not. If it is not there, there is a policy. Then consecutive serial number not exceeding 16 characters. Okay, in one or multiple series containing alphabets or numericals or special characters, hyphen, dash, slash, symbolized as dash or slash respectively, or any combination thereof, unique for a financial year. For every financial year, this should be unique. Let us look at here. Now you see. Can you see an invoice number here? This one. Can you count how many digits are there? Maximum how many digits should be there?
16.
16. Now you count here. Let us look at this invoice number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, date is there. And slash may be included. Dash may be. Every year, new serial number should be started. Okay, I can show you one more invoice you see. Here also you can see. Understood? How invoice numbers needs to be designed. Okay, maximum, not exceeding 16. You can keep it in single digit also, but it should not exceed 16. Okay, date of issue. In that invoice, date of issue was there. It was there or not? Date of issue was there. Okay, we'll verify that thing. Date of issue. Next is name, address, then GSTN, then UIN if registered of the recipient. That means recipient's name, recipient's address, recipient's GSTN, or sometimes what happens if the recipient is not liable to pay GST and recipient is something like foreign embassy, then they have this unique identity number UIN. That may also be mentioned. Okay, if it's a registered recipient. So in this case, you see in this invoice, this recipient is a registered invoice, therefore his GSTN is there, address is there, date is there. Okay, and in case of foreign embassy, you are having UIN there instead of GSTN, UIN may be mentioned. This should be the content of GST invoice. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4 points you have remembered. Now let us move further. What next? Name and address of the recipient and the address of delivery. Right, where it is going to be delivered. If delivery is same, then same address can be repeated. Name of the state and its code. If recipient is unregistered, if such recipient is unregistered, where value of supply is 50,000 rupees or more, then name has to be mentioned. State has to be mentioned along with its state code also should be mentioned. If invoice value is 50,000. So that is one more thing. In invoice, you have to verify that. Then name and address of the recipient and address of delivery along with the state code if the recipient is an unregistered and where the value of taxable supply is less than 50,000 rupees and the recipient requests that such details should be recorded in tax invoice. Okay, so if it is exceeding 50,000 rupees, then of course the state code name and address should be mentioned. If it is not exceeding, then what will happen? Not exceeding what the recipient is requesting to do that, then these things should be mentioned in the tax invoice. Then point G talks about harmonized system of nomenclature code for goods and services. So what is HSN or harmonized system of nomenclature? We'll be learning later on. Just at this stage, try to understand the goods are classified under a system. It's a type of international classification. All goods are coming under this classification. They are called as HSN. So this HSN code we'll be learning shortly. What is that? HSN code needs to be mentioned in respect of goods. And in case of service, for provision of service, then in the place of HSN, then SAC, that is service account codes, needs to be mentioned. Okay, I will do one thing. I'll be just give me a second. I'll be showing you some invoices with HSN code. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, I could find one invoice right now. I'm going to share the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Now you see an invoice. Are you able to see? Here you see a code, that is service accounting code. Is it mentioned or not? Are you finding it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you see, this is service accounting. So in case this is because this is a service, this is a supply of service. In case of goods, you can find out any invoice, you can find out goods. Also, in certain situation, this code needs to be mentioned. What is that situation? What is the turnover limit? We are going to learn shortly. In which situation this has to be mentioned, and which situation we did not mention this HSN. Therefore, you can find in some bill or some suppliers, you can find it is mentioned. In some supplier, it is not mentioned. Isn't it? Sometimes you find HSN code is not there in the place. So that means there is some exception. So as of now, if I recall, I think it is 1.5 crore turnover. I think I had discussed it earlier. So then there is a slab rate, certain digits up to certain digits that has to be mentioned in the GST invoice. We'll be learning that thing shortly. So that is the reason sometimes it is mentioned. So in some suppliers you find it is mentioned, some suppliers it is not mentioned. Well, friends. So what the rule says, HSN, that is harmonized system of nomenclature code, needs to be mentioned unless the exemption applies here. The description of goods or services. What are the goods which are supplied, or what are the services which are provided for? That description should be there. Then quantity. Quantity is to mention in case of goods. And units or unit quantity code. So something has to be mentioned so that it can quantify how many goods are actually supplied. The total value of supply of goods. You have seen all invoices, there is a total value. Taxable value of the supply of goods and services, both taking into account the discount and abatement, if any. So after this discount, what is the total amount of taxable supply that has to be specified? The rate of tax. So tax, you see, tax here involves CGST, HGST, IGST, UTGST, and says those rates have to be mentioned. Then the amount of tax charged by way of CGST, HGST, then IGST, UTGST, all these things should be there. Okay. Then you see place of supply along with the state in case supply is in the course of interstate trade and commerce. So the place of supply, name of the state should be there. Address of delivery if it is different from the place of supply. Whether tax is payable on reverse charge basis. This is one more concept. I think initially we have discussed this thing. So normally, when you are supplying some goods or providing some services, so it is the supplier who collects GST and deposits with money. But certain situation, reverse thing happens. That is called as RCM or reverse charge mechanism. Have we discussed it in our initial classes when you have discussed the basics of GST? Whether we discussed the concept of reverse charge basis, anybody has remembered? If it is no. So if we have not discussed, we'll be discussing it at appropriate time. It's a RCM. RCM, what happens? The person who is or you can say the recipient will be paying GST, they will be depositing GST on the supplier. Normally supplier is supposed to deposit, but in this case, recipient are going to deposit. Right. So this concept also we will discuss. So this is one more important concept, RCM. Okay, few concepts are there which we separately cover. One is this RCM, one is this composition scheme. Okay, and this thing, quarterly payment, quarterly return and monthly payment we have already discussed. So RCM concept is there, we discuss it. Then this invoice should have a signature or a digital signature. Both are acceptable. Either a signature or digital signature should be there in it. So these are the items which should be there in it. So if you look at the invoice, you can find out. Normally, these are the components. Item, HSN, quantity, rate, discount, taxable value, CGST, HGST, shares. And in case of interstate supply, one more column, IGST should also be there. Okay, customer's name, billing address, shipping address, invoice number, date. Are you watching it here? GST name of the supplier. PAN is also mentioned. Whether tax is paid on reverse charge, that has to be mentioned. Then signature. All these things should be there. Just have a look at this. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, in below of the total, it is written 36,020. But sir, in the upside right corner, it is written total 6,500. So
You are saying here 36,020. Then
yes, sir. And sir, in the right hand corner, top side, it is 6,500 total. Sir, what does this total denote?
no, where is 6,500? On the total.
Sir, right corner of the page.
Okay. Oh, that is, I think. Just a minute. Oh, I think something is mentioned here that should not be there. Maybe something in this typical invoice, maybe some advance or something might have been noted, but please ignore that figure. This figure total 6,000 people. Normally, this should not be there. Please ignore that figure.
Okay, sir.
Okay. That shouldn't be there. Maybe some other total. No, it's not even discount total. Like you check it, this is a real bill in fact. So you can check it. I think some other control might be there. Maybe advance payment, something might have been recorded. Okay, any other query you have? Any other query?
Sir, here in the blue circle, it is mentioned duplicate for transporter. Sir, means it will be mentioned on a different bill.
We'll be learning this rule again at the time of when we learn the rules for invoice. When goods are going by road, so one copy is handed over to the transporter. This is not for the customer. This is for transfer.
Yes, sir. In that transporter bill,
Transporter's
it
copy.
will be mentioned. This will be mentioned, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Right, got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, friends, as we are discussing, this HSN code needs to be disclosed, required to be mentioned. HSN code or service tax code in certain situation. For that thing, we have to remember or we have to understand what is this HSN code. It stands for Harmonized System of Nomenclature. So, if you refer to the first schedule of the Customs Tariff Act 1975, you can find out this codes. In GST side, also how to find out HSN code. I'll be showing you. Today time may not permit, maybe next class I'll be showing you how to find it HSN code. So as of now, all associates having the turnover 1.5 crore and above, it is mandatory to mention HSN or SAC code on the product or services on the tax invoices. So if the total turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then it need not be mentioned. Okay, and just a minute. What I'll be telling you, how many digits I have to. I think I had discussed it earlier also. Now, one more concern. 2-digit code, that means the code is of 8-digit number, up to 2-digit can be mentioned for the business with an annual turnover of above 1.5 crore, but below 5 crore. If it is exceeding 5 crore, then 4-digit code needs to be mentioned. In case of import and export, 8-digit codes needs to be mentioned. Code looks like this: chapter heading, then heading, then subheading. This is how codes looks like. You see there are some items. This is exactly the custom tariff act schedule I am showing you. If you look at here from the GST site also, you can find out GST rate finder. You can find out the code. I'll be showing you at later stage. Yeah, this is how you see code looks like. Are you finding out 8-digit codes? Right? So certain situation 2-digit, that means 49. You see all cases it is 49. Here it's 84. The 4-digit 8-digit codes may be mentioned. So this covers various items. Okay, let us say for all these items, this is the code. This is the 8-digit code. And these
Sir,
are yeah.
Sir, for every specific item, a specific code has been, sir, reserved.
Yeah, it is there. For every item, there is a code. If exact item is not there, then some similar items will be available.
Sir, can there be less than 8 digits code available?
No, less than 8-digit means you see, you can mention it for less than 8-digit. That is what I told you.
Yes, sir, I am asking, is there any code available less than 8 digits?
What means some broad classification is available. For example, if you look at here, you see how many digits are available? 4 digits.
The 4 digits.
4 digits, this is the broad head.
Okay, sir.
Right. Inside that, these codes are available. If you are saying less codes are available, you have to take this is 0, 0.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. This is, you see, if always they are having 8 digits. Okay. If it is less than 8 digit, that means actually there is not a code for a particular item. That is an heading.
Yes,
Broad.
sir. So, like for the FMCG products, will there be code for different type of products, or
Different type of products, different codes are available. So we'll do one thing. I'll be showing you the codes in the next class. I think that will be more clear to you. So HSN code concept we'll be learning in your next class. HSN code and SAC code concept. Okay. In the meantime, you can also go to GST website. You can try to search. Because you see, finally the rate of tax is also related to what? Related to a service or related to a goods. So therefore, classification is important. So attempts are made to classify it. That means with as much accuracy as possible. But sometimes it may not be possible to include each and every item. If for some reason you are finding that item is not there, then some item which is similar to that can be taken. Okay, fine. For example, let us say marker is not there, but sketch pen is there. Sketch pen or product of similar nature is there, so that can be taken for reference. This is just an example. Okay, are you getting it? Suppose some vegetables are there, but some vegetables are not there. So you can see what is the vegetable which is more close to it. So accordingly, rates can be decided, classification can be added. Right. So friends, today we understand some basic things about invoicing, but that's not enough. That there are many things we have to learn regarding invoices. Some other time we'll catch up with that. Okay. So next class, let us plan to learn about this HSN or harmonized system of nomenclature concept. Thank you very much. We'll catch up in your next class.